introducing our guest who is in the studio to look at this for us, Elijah Ubokiri. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, before we do that, let's take a proper look and see a background of the story that we're bringing your way this morning as global oil prices continue to fluctuate and inflation continues to rise. Different sectors of the economy have been hit hard by these harsh economic realities. The banking sector, which deals with cash, is bearing the brunt of it all.
Nigerian banks are battling with liquidity problems. Cash inflow into the sector has become scarce due to the shrinking of public sector funds. Now, let's try to understand what liquidity really means.
Liquidity is the term that banks use to describe their ability to satisfy demands for cash in exchange for deposits. A bank is considered liquid when it has sufficient cash and other liquid assets, together with the ability to raise funds quickly from other sources to enable it meet its payment and other financial obligations on time.
According to CBN Act, this is really required. It is required, and it is legal. You must have a ratio of your loan and compared to the ratio of deposit that you have to ensure that the bank is liquid. Without that, you cannot stay in business.
Simply
according
put,
to
Busolami,
indeed,
the bank has money to borrow and to do business.
yes,
It has money.
Yes, yes. Sir.
Okay, so just like Nigeria's economy relied heavily on oil, so did banks, as many of them grew their oil and gas portfolios impressively in 2014. Now, with this level of exposure to the oil and gas sector, non-performing loans in Nigerian banks threatened banks' cash reserve and assets, and this has ultimately affected their revenues and profits.
All right. Another issue that could be blamed for the liquidity challenge of Nigerian banks stemmed from the abolishment of Commission on Turnover, that's the COT. Banks are now faced with the Herculean task of trying to diversify revenue streams in a period of weak economic growth. And don't forget what we also call the cash reserves. Apart from the liquid, you must be liquid, yes, but you must have a certain percentage of your money stored at the vault, that's with the CBN. So these and all that, you have liquidity, you must have cash reserve. Without that, then you're not really solvent as in the real world of being solvent.
Absolutely. Now, the implementation of the Treasury single account, the TSA, presents additional challenges for banks, as over the years, the Nigerian banks have largely reaped massive profits by using cheap federal government deposits to buy Treasury bills or lent to high-grade borrowers at exorbitant interest rates.
Now, with the TSA now, however, banks are faced with a much lower liquidity to fund such operations. The bank no longer have access to funds belonging to ministries, departments, and agencies of government. But analysts have argued that it has contributed to the current liquidity crisis in the banking system.
Okay, so this is where we're bringing our guest, Dr. Elijah Ubokiri. Now, let's even look at the Treasury single account and the impact on banks. It looks like this really has exposed, how weak or otherwise Nigerian banks are, especially the 23 or so of them.
Thank you very much. In our system, our country, we know that government is the biggest spender because our real sector is not developed. Therefore, when government decided to hurriedly withdraw the funds.
Hurriedly.
You say hurriedly?
Yes, I know why I say use the word hurriedly because it could have been done in a more gradual way where the impact would not be as serious as it is on the banks. The banks were like, they were caught napping, and the impact is what we are seeing. Part of it is the retrenchment that is going on. So because the major reason is that the real sector that could support banks and be able to, that they can survive in a situation like this are not developed, and the banks themselves are not even prepared to support the real sector because they're playing at the gallery.
Okay, beyond the TSA, let's look at the COT. People have also argued that that also contributed to the liquidity squeeze in the banking sector.
I wouldn't want to agree completely because the COT issue wouldn't be the issue. The real issue is that the banks found themselves with problems Some are economical, some are political, some are social. The issue of government, the policy, government policy on FX and all that, they are having all
negative impact.
And they're coming almost at the same time. So that is why we have the problem. It could have, because they get money from these TOTs and TRECOs, yes, but it wouldn't be the major problem where we're having the adverse effect, where we see it happening today.
You think the COT is just a tip of the iceberg,
yeah,
or just a drop in the ocean?
It is part of it, but it's not the main.
But the governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, actually believes that the banks are healthy.
No, nobody says the banks are not healthy. We are talking about liquidity.
So is there a risk of, banks, actually going into, a situation where they cannot help the real sector, which is their main, objective?
I want to see our problem, from the point of view that our banks, right from when we had the liquidity, which we are discussing, when they had the money, they are risk averse. They don't want to support this real sector. Real sectors are not 90 days lending.
So it's not really the problem of liquidity for them not giving access to the real sector, access to credit to the. Okay, let's go back to just talk about one of these factors one after the other. We've mentioned the COT. You said it's not part of it.
I said it is, but not
a major factor. Yeah. But that of inflation, which of course has affected household saving. People can no longer save the way they used to save. Is that a key factor here?
Well, the man has to survive before he saves. A lot of people, let us look at it from the point of government policies that affected this, affected everybody now. So to say, look at the situation where companies that were employing people, that employed people, had to ask them to go because they had to close. They couldn't access foreign exchange. I have a long number of our clients, they closed down because they couldn't. So as they close down, the next thing is to retrench. When you retrench, the man has no money to feed. So think of savings. Savings become the least priority for anybody, even the companies themselves. So the issue is that you need to be alive for you to save money. The banks themselves, the whole thing is coming on them almost at the same time. Let us take the issue of when the government came in, we entered into TSA.
Yes.
That came up as that was happening. The issue of ministers came on. Then we came into budget problems. And if there's no money, like budget is not operational as it's supposed to be, you find out that there's no funds lubricating the economy. As it stands, if there is no funds moving around, it will affect almost every facet of the economy.
For a long time, the forex policy of the CBN, banks were really...
It's been epileptic, and they move forward, they move backwards, and that has affected the banks. At the point, the banks were not even allowed to get inflows from outside and use them. And the TSA team took foreign exchange from our banks and took them overseas for foreign banks to manage.
Let's even look at the issue of non-performing loans, which the Bankers Committee recently said had exceeded the 5% threshold, hovering somewhere around 10.1 or so percent.
Yeah,
is that a major factor?
It's a major
here?
issue. It's a major issue. It stems from the point of bad businesses. Sometimes they are insider dealing that causes it. We know that the banks sometimes give loans they know that are not recoverable because of one reason or the other. We know our country, we know we have the issue of corruption. And you give a loan, you know that loan cannot be recovered. If you take money from me and you're giving me a loan, I'm going to pay interest, I've given you, we're going to share this, and why would I pay you back?
All right, so where does AMCOM, does it come in this matter?
Well, AMCOM, when at the time AMCOM came on board, they had to evaluate banks and know those loans that have been classified as lost, bad loans, and they classify them and they now put them. AMCOM purchase them.
Yeah, we understand the operation of AMCOM. Okay. What I'm saying is, even now with the operation of AMCOM, with the help of AMCOM, as it were, the bank still has liquidity, the banks still have liquidity squeeze.
How come they
Why?
not bring money and replace the money they have? We are going to be paying you. It's like insurance. It takes time for that to crystallize. They are discounting these loans. They are not going to pay them the exact amount because they might not even recover the whole
total amount.
That's the truth.
Now, what you just said is another reason why many people have been questioning the, the idea of still having AMCON, bailout banks and
NDIC.
Yes,
they're all there.
and the rest of them. Seeing that the banks, one way or another, collude with customers, to actually, do some under yes,
it's
exactly.
a major problem that people don't seem to understand. It happened before the last fair bank issues. That was a major problem. Somebody will come, you will come to me, why are you disturbing me? When I took this loan, I gave you such an amount of money. Yeah, there are so many Indians who you share the money. So when time to pay, the man will not be forceful to even go and recover.
Indeed.
Because if you come to him, where do you want me to get the money from?
Now let's look at the knock-on effect of this. I mean, it's already affecting different, sectors of the economy.
Yes.
Let's look at the power sector, for example, where 800 billion naira, meant for the power sector is at risk as discos suffer cash crunch and low gas supplies. This is a major fallout of,
That's why I said that we have a political angle to what is happening. We have social angle, we have economic angle. And except we see them from that point of view. As it stands now, I do not know how much of the budget had implemented. Whether we like it or not for our society, government is the owner, is big spender. Therefore, if government have not pumped in money to be able to, touch all the contractors are being owed, the ministries,
which is like the big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Really talking about the illiquidity state of the states themselves.
Yes, yeah, they can't.
Some of the states can't
pay.
even
Can't
pay
pay
salaries.
salary. So you've not paid demand salary. All the states, except very few of them, can pay salary. It's a problem, and that problem should be seen from the point of the structure of the economy itself. Why would a state rely on getting money from you go and share money and you go back home and sit down, nothing is happening? To be a governor, I expect that you should have a program how to develop your state. You should have a program what to do to generate money. It's not that you don't come and tell people we went to Abuja, what they gave us is only 2 billion naira. It doesn't make sense. What are you doing as a governor? Every state in this country have potentials to be able to sustain itself. In fact, there is no state that does not have mineral resources up to three. So we are not doing anything. It's the issue of the government itself has its own share of the problem. The operators in the banks have their own share of it. Because we know that if a bank decides that it's going to operate like a bank, what we see in this country truly is a situation where people want to do short-term businesses and make money. Now the system is no longer allowing that, and it has become a problem for them. You need to say, how do we lend long so that people can develop their business and people can employ people? It will be a very,
In the light of this, are we really doing banking the way banking should be
that
done?
That is exactly what I have just said.
Yes,
that we have
like
not
it's
been
done
doing
in other parts of the
banking
world.
as it's supposed to be. In those days, you will see a bank that says they are development banks. They are supposed to lend to people. They lend. People will not pay back. You see a bank that see the corporate banking they do. But when you come to lending, you find out the risk. They are so far from lending to people. You lend 90 days, those who are going to bring trade financing. That is not what will develop the system. That's what will sustain your customers, so to say. Because people need to be in business for them to patronize you, for you to have funds with them.
Okay, we have joining us via Skype now, economist Babatunde Olatunji. Good morning for joining us today. Quite a lot of issues this morning. A liquidity state of the Nigerian banks, a good thing, a bad thing. MFLS says the banks are healthy, but the liquidity state of the bank is saying otherwise. What's your take on this? Tunde, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try and reconnect. Probably we'll adjust your audio and reconnect. So back to you, Mr. Elijah. We're looking at the effects of the liquidity state that we, or liquidity challenge that we have in the Nigerian banks. And you know that one of the effects of it is that the counterpart, overseas counterpart from some of these banks are now being declined. The credit that's supposed to come into them most of the time don't come in. Do you still think that is a healthy thing for the banks?
It's a big problem. It stems from the problem in the economy, the crisis we're having, which also is clear from the revenue. Since the major source of revenue for the country is oil. And the price has gone down. Not only that, we cannot even produce as much as we used to produce because of pipeline vandalization. If you cannot pay your credit, if you cannot pay your sponsors outside, many people cannot pay when they have good bill for collection. In fact, that has stopped because nobody will lend to you now, give you goods and sell and return. So also the banks themselves, repatriating the funds becomes problem for their counterpart.
Overseas counterpart.
So nobody wants to do business. Everybody is watching. Maybe with time that things will improve. Nobody wants to take his money and dump into where he will not receive it back. That's the problem, because a lot of people have had the career partners who were giving us, at the point they stopped, they said, we can't even repatriate the money, funds, the goods they have given to us, because there's no forex to do that, no foreign exchange to do that. Then the government came and listed the items that are not supposed to receive, access to funds. So 41, I don't know how. Those people who are in these businesses, what happens to them? That means they don't have no business. That's what we're seeing. The ripple effect, if you see, even the rate of crime is, beginning to increase.
You talked about, the need for government, or, that if government had actually gradually moved these funds, with the TSA and all the rest of them, should government have been gradual when it comes to some of these 41 items that you talk about?
Okay, my take about the TSA
what happens to
is this.
Yes.
With the modern technology, the money does not have to resident in CBN for government to control it. We really need to do that. Because every transaction you make in the bank are recorded somewhere in the EFCC or the other unit that government, CBN knows. So do we have to put this money in one place for us to say we are controlling it? No, we didn't need to do that. Because CBN, they are not commercial bankers. Their business is not to do that kind of retail banking.
The money would just be there, no returns.
So what I expected, if we were articulate in our analysis, what we needed to do is, NNPC, we want only 2 accounts from you. Tell us which bank you are going to use. Any bank that keeps more than 2 accounts, the bank will sanction. Do you understand?
Okay.
So you can monitor. Even with BFVVN, you can monitor these things very easily. So why do we need do you know the confusion that operation costs, the TSA, the way it was implemented is still there. Banks have not reconciled with the customers. A lot of things happen because the banks the CBN was commanded to debit the banks directly.
I like your word, commanded.
No, okay. I read the letter from CBN. They said we are mandated.
Okay, let's bring in Babatunde Tunji now. We have you now, Tunji, don't we? Good morning. Good morning, Tunji. If you can hear us, the issue is a liquidity challenge in Nigerian banks. Apart from the TSA, what other factors do you think are responsible for this?
Okay, well, it does seem we still have issues with Tunji Babatunde's connection there as he tries to speak with us via Skype. Maybe this is where we should remind our viewers on TVC Entertainment that you can continue to watch TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190.
The activity is 418, and I think
Go TV 45.
45, SCTVs is 510. All right,
Absolutely. That's what happens when you do this every day. All right, yeah, to be part. All right, you're welcome back. It's still, of course, TVC Breakfast, and we have our guests right here in the studio, Dr. Elijah Ubokiri, and Tunji Babatunde is with us via Skype. I don't know if we have that connection established right now, but if otherwise, so right here in the studio, Dr. Elijah Ubokiri, what's the impact of liquidity on banks' profitability, especially at this time with all of this, prevailing situations?
Well, it is obvious. When you don't do business, you can't make profits. When your profit, business is reduced, you also reduce your profit. It goes very fast. So the issue is that the banks are having issues with raising funds. Liquidity is that you have the funds, you use it profitably. If you have the funds, there were times in this country we used to have excess liquidity. But as it stands now, we have the opposite of it, which is we do not have enough funds to be able to do business to generate profit. Therefore, if the banks are having issues with liquidity to meet their obligations here also includes loan demands, because you apply for loan, the bank cannot tell you don't have money to give you. They can tell you to bring your grant.
Just even talk about something as simple as your small deposit. There was a story I read of a pensioner who went to the bank to get his pension, which is less than 20,000 naira, and he was told there was no cash.
They were blunt in doing that. That was also unprofessional. They can dribble you by telling you stories.
All kinds of collaterals.
Yes, they ask you to bring your grandfather's death certificate, maybe died in 1950, just to make sure you don't get. But the real story, the real reason is that they don't have money to lend.
Now you talk about a time when there was so much liquidity in the system.
Yes.
I recall sometime early last year when Godwin Emefiele actually told the banks to begin to support the real sector, that there was too much money just lying to actually support the real sector.
CBN, through the monetary policy, could ask banks to do certain things that they know that will not impact on them negatively. But the issue is that our banking system, in those days, the banks we see as doing banking are very few. But with advent of modern banking, digital banking, we now do not do banking. A lot of the banks went into oil business, even when in the real sense, they are not supposed to go into such, put so much money. So now the crystallized oil is no longer,
yes.
it's no
and
longer.
It's affecting the loan. But the CBN can't force the commercial banks to lend to the real sector.
No, if they decide,
but the CBN has grants that the real sector can
the CBN came up with that.
Yes.
Last year they came up with that. The only thing that the conditions the CBN also give to the banks are not favorable to the banks, because you are told if there's any mistake, you will pay for it. So everybody's afraid. But the truth is that we need to change the orientation of our banking, the culture of banking in this country. Because we go overseas and get credit. People will lend money to us. If you come to Nigeria, you can hardly, as an entrepreneur, get money from the bank.
But would
So
you
what are
blame
those
them? Would you
measures
blame them now? Would you blame them, put all these challenges we've listed in mind and think of their overheads when they put their lending rate at somewhat exorbitant rate? Would you blame them?
Yeah, no, well, the issue is this. The banks, the kind of profit we want to declare makes it, we behave the way we are behaving. If we do normal business, what is the purpose of banking? Creating liquidity, that's the purpose of banking. And managing risk, that's the major reason why banks, if people cannot access bank, since I've been banking, I don't know how many years now, maybe 30 years, you can't get to the bank and get money. You can't get loan. It's difficult because if we must grow this economy, if the banks themselves will benefit from the economic growth, they need to support entrepreneurs. It might not be too much money, but the number of, some of them are coming up with programs now, but I think it's a bit late. But they have coming up with lending small, getting group of people. With what BOI is doing now, which is also a common bank, it's not like a commercial bank. The commercial banks, you think of what they do overseas. You can't get mortgage from them. You can't get anything. The mortgage, in US, it's the commercial bank that gives you mortgage.
Do we need more banks targeted at,
specific things? Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe like
All
what
right,
BOI is doing is good now.
So, but let's bring Olatunji now. We are bent on having Tunji this morning, so we have him now via phone. Hello, Tunji. Can you hear us now?
Hello, I can hear you.
Yes, good morning. Great to have you with us this morning. Your take on the liquidity challenge in Nigeria. What do you think are the factors responsible for that and the way forward?
Hello, good morning. I can hear you.
Yes. Well, just weighing for us on the issue of liquidity challenges in the Nigerian banks.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Sorry for about the issues we are having. About the liquidity challenge the banks are having. Yes, the liquidity challenges with the Nigerian banks, it's real. I was listening to one of the comments made there that the CBA governor said that.
Okay, we seem to be having
yes,
issues.
Those challenges are still very much there. But maybe we should reel out a few statistics for you. The Central Bank of Nigeria's Financial Stability Report for the second half of 2015 showed a marginal decline in the quality of assets in the Nigerian banking industry compared with the position of the first half of 2015.
The report showed that the ratio of non-performing loans to gross loans increased by 0.21 percentage point to 4.86% at the end of December 2015.
And the CBN attributed the decline in asset quality to the unfavorable macroeconomic environment in the review period. Also, the ratio of core liquid assets to total assets decreased by 2.2 percentage points from 18.5% at the end of the first half of 2015 to 16.3% at the end of December 2015.
So similarly, the ratio of core liquid assets to short-term liabilities decreased by 2.1 percentage point to 5.0% at the end of December 2015, compared with 27.1% at the end of that same period under review. Quite interesting figures here. What do you make of that?
Well, they are consequential, if you ask me. The global economic downturn is, we are not living in under our own. The major thing that are also affected, after the election, a lot of things happened. People were afraid, a lot of people wanted to take them. That's why, one of the reasons why the dollar was going up. People were just collecting how much we can collect. Who knows what's going to happen.
And you had major companies pulling out of, of the country too.
Fortunately, God helping us, there was no major crisis as people anticipated. So that is the issue. And a lot of companies that could not continue to operate here, some of them are owing banks. And they owe banks big money. You know, if bank tell you, if some of the figures we even have, if you look at them critically, it's not that we want to address them. So that
they're just conservative figures.
So now we'll be afraid to go to bank. Do you understand? So the issue is that these figures, they're correct because they are, in fact, they are normal if you ask me, because the whole situation should tell you that there will be problems. The moment TSA was announced, I knew. The moment the dollar issue was going on up and down, but when the Mefele came in, he started doing trial and error on the area.
So are you saying even this new forex policy won't help issues?
For me, I don't know any country in the world where we leave their currency to first of demand and supply. Even though we have added special window to it, which we also will go to abuse because of the nature of the way we do things. So the question is, why don't we say we have devalued our naira than for us to say we are being flexible?
Are you saying then that devaluation is the way out?
You tell the truth. Some people know what.
What's
No,
the
no,
truth?
no.
What's the
Beyond,
truth?
telling the truth.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the naira should be devalued? I mean, this President Buhari has said devaluation has not helped,
yes,
the economy in the past.
now. So why are we saying
By
something?
default?
It's devalued because the minimum, you are now asked to sell, buy at 280, 282. So it's not devaluation.
Okay, so just hold on there. Heightened liquidity pressure in the banking industry forced bank borrowings from Central Bank of Nigeria's standing lending facility to rise to 230.61% to 929.52 billion naira.
As the liquidity problems persist, banks have now resorted to withdrawing heavily from their deposits in CBN, leading to a decline in all their standing deposit facility. That is a big question, really. They are beginning to tap into their cash reserves.
Yeah, I do not expect the CBN governor to say that banks have problems. Okay, you can't say that. But the figures, they are telling the story. If I am pressed and I'm supposed to keep this policy, I'm supposed to keep a percentage of my...
By law, a policy recognized by law. So who is faulting the law now, the CBN or the banks?
Maybe compromise.
Okay, maybe, to even add to this, the impact of the TSA that we already talked about, the TSA decline of 1.02 trillion naira in April 2016 from 18.54 trillion to 17.51 trillion in 2016. Are we likely to see, further dipping?
Would you go and save or accumulate what does not exist? At the point this decision was made, there were organizations that had various accounts, some legal, some illegal, they were using. The policy was good. Okay. I only quarrel with implementation.
Right.
Okay, so implementation, as always, has always been the bane, whether it's in politics or economy and all of that. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Elijah Obokere, for joining us on TVC Breakfast this morning. And, well, we should also say thank you to Tunji Babatunde, of course,